To you live from Johannesburg, this is Tonight with Jane Dutton. The plan to get your vote, the repercussions of the ANC's election manifesto. Then the dodgy agencies that promise you visas and work permits but dump you as soon as you land on foreign land. Is our high unemployment rate and the attraction of earning better salaries driving us into foreign prisons? And a $10 million US business founded in South Africa, operating in America, Europe and Asia. Striata founder Mike Wright shares tips on getting it right. This is Tonight with Jane Dutton. Tonight, let's grow South Africa together, the ANC slogan, with Cyril Ramaphosa and Jacob Zuma leading the charge. Is that what we want? A man who brought the country to its knees in the face of corruption, now brought in to help save the ANC, standing side by side with our president, the man who says he wants to keep the country clean. If that doesn't chase away investors, what will? And what is new in the ANC's manifesto anyway? Is it just more of the same, a rehash of previous election promises? An ambitious plan to secure 275,000 more jobs each year. We ask if our lives will get better under this manifesto and what it means for the balance of power in the party. And desperation for jobs in this country is leading people to jail overseas. Many of them in China's prisons. Dodgy agencies have duped unsuspecting victims into taking false jobs, or jobs that don't exist. This is unacceptable. What is being done to bring our youngsters back? And then to a man who is providing jobs, real jobs, and lots of them. And our entrepreneur of the week, Michael Wright, the brain behind Striata, an app and operating system that is making everyone's lives easier. And for him, a whole lot of cash. How did he do it, and what tips does he have for those who want to make it big? All of that coming up, but first, the news with Shahan. Welcome back. Nice to see you again.
Thanks. Good to be back, Jane. Appreciate it. These are our top stories tonight. Eskom is once again pleading poverty and says you should pay more for electricity so it can get out of its financial mess. It's asking the National Energy Regulator for a 15% annual increase over the next 3 years. Public hearings into the matter started in Cape Town today. The power utility says prices have to go up for it to remain operational. It's implemented some cost-cutting measures, but its debt has ballooned to over 400 billion rand. Hearings will be held in all 9 provinces.
Yes, we must look at the costs to limit the impact on the consumer. But if you want to become sustainable, you need to change the returns for Eskom to meet its debt service commitments. I think simply put, it'll be difficult. I can't see any other producer having a financially viable model if the returns is very low, and will they come in? So I think the point I'm highlighting is we need to now deal with the returns, get it to what is the allowed return, and we cannot continue to migrate to a full return because it doesn't make Eskom's balance sheet sustainable.
Various task teams are being assembled to deal with the foot and mouth disease outbreak. Around 15,000 cattle at risk in Vembe, Limpopo. Several neighboring countries have already suspended meat imports from South Africa.
Task teams, depending on the area in question. If we deal with trade, we need people who have got trade issues that they can come up and show and give comfort to those countries who are doing trade with. That it is fine and proper to still continue importing meat from South Africa, as it is from zones that have got no FMD infections.
And a mother from Mpumalanga accused of murdering her 4 children is being sent for mental evaluation. Zintle Maditla has abandoned her bail application at the Imalahleni Magistrates Court. Her lawyers now are asking for a team of 4 mental health professionals to evaluate her. Maditla handed herself over to police after the bodies of her children were found by family members. Police say the 2 girls and 2 boys aged between 11 months and 8 years old were last seen on the 26th of December.
We are happy that we are sent for observation, yes.
How's the family doing?
We're trying to cope with our loss, but the loss is difficult. But life must go on. we as family have given her. We wanted to help her.
Those are the headlines. More news at 9. I'm back at 10 with News Hour. For now, it's back to Jane.
Thanks very much for that, Shahan. 275,000 jobs each year, 1.2 trillion in new investment over 4 years. 30% of government's procurement will go to small businesses and cooperatives, and reducing high land and property costs that exclude the poor. These are some of the ambitious promises the African National Congress has announced in its election manifesto, launched on Saturday. These promises are meant to convince you to keep the oldest liberation movement in power. ANC National Executive Committee member Ronald Lamola is here to tell us why you need to put your trust in the ANC. Good to have you with us again.
Thank you.
Why should we put the trust in the ANC with this manifesto? What's new?
Thank you, and good evening to the viewers at home. Firstly, on behalf of the ANC, I want to convey our message of condolences to Masinga family. And watching Man United goal over the weekend of Rashford, I see similarities, and I think the gods of football are sending a message to the family.
Good message.
So from our side, we have got a proven track record of 25 years where there has been mistakes, there have been failure, and there have been successes. And the President has highlighted the successes of the past 25 years and the failures. And there have been clear improvements on healthcare, on education, and various issues that affect society. And from those, we're taking lessons which will enable us to propel South Africa and to reconstruct a society which is based on a national democratic society going into the future. So the ANC has got experience.
So if I can just jump in here, if you look at the previous manifestos, I mean, it's all pretty much the same, more of the same, isn't it? I mean, you know, the focus is again still on health and education, as it should well be. But do you think enough has been done? I mean, look, we've got the highest youth unemployment rate in the world.
Yes, it has been done. If you look at issues we've promised, we had said we're going to put together an NHI. We have been struggling to put it together, but now the Department of Health is ready to move forward. With regard to education, there's clear improvements. The last matric outcomes are a clear results and a clear example that the public sector education system is now tilting the scales in favor of the public education system. And even electricity, you might raise issues, but also including issues of unemployment. When you look at the stats, is that there has been increase in employment, but there's also been an increase of the job-seeking people. Because of the outcomes of education, the number has gone up. So that's why it doesn't show that employment is going down. And it is being leveled because of that fact. We are now producing more people into the market, into the job market. So those are the stats that are there.
The reality is unemployment overall.
Yes, it has gone up, but you must also look at the reality of the statistics, that the number of people who were employed in '94 is now increased to more. But the reason why we have got more people unemployed is because we have now produced more from our schooling system who are unemployed. So that is what we need to resolve, and that is what the manifesto.
Okay, how are you going to resolve
that?
And
that is what the manifesto is responding to in terms of investment, in terms of skills development.
Okay, so you want 1.2 trillion investment over 4 years.
Yes.
The IMF says that our economy will only expand by 0.8%, with other countries growing around 4%. How do you make South Africa attractive to attract this investment?
Obviously, firstly, skills development and a proper legal framework that has got clear rules of law, but also fiscal and monetary policy stability, which also the manifesto is also trying to speak to in terms of the economic policy and the economic trajectory. So there has been plans that in the past have worked, which we are going to work from and improve. And you will have seen on the state-owned enterprises, the ministry trying to resolve some of the governance issues that have affected us. We know there are debts on most of them, but the department is now moving towards stabilizing them and also reducing the debts. Those are some of the issues that will enable us to achieve certain levels of confidence in the international investment community, but also in the local investment community for them to come in, because there will be no investment that can come into the country without the local investors showing confidence in that. And that's the reason why the president is now seeking a social cohesion with civil society, the business sector, and all South Africans putting their heads together, including the NHIs and outcome of that, including basic education. That is where we're moving to. Even land reform, it's what we're anchoring it on societal discussions and finding consensus. And I think
but
all of us working together will achieve.
Jumping in, underlining all of this is the high level of corruption in South Africa. I mean, it's chronic. It's a bad message to South Africans. It's a bad message internationally. What's going to be done to put a stop to it, considering there are still so many people in positions of power who have been implicated?
Yes, it's not like there's nothing that has not been done. The Commission of Inquiries to
We still haven't seen anyone go to jail. I mean, we've got inquiry after inquiry after inquiry, but unfortunately, all it does is just appease everybody to hear what's gone wrong. But there's no end game there.
Remember, investment also wants a rule of law to prevail. So you can't take anyone to jail without having investigated. And that's why even you want certainty in any sector of the economy, you need to stick to what the rule of law says. So I think it's clear we have demonstrated a commission of inquiries there. The president has also appointed the head of the NPA. There's also stability now in the entire security cluster. The Hawks are doing their job and so forth. And the president has also been able to say, we want them to do their job without fear, favor, or prejudice. They are allowed to investigate. They are allowed to do whatever it's supposed to do, which is mandated by the law. Okay, so Ronald, the governing party has given a clear mandate that the constitution must be adhered to in that regard.
A lot of people were concerned seeing Cyril Ramaphosa with Jacob Zuma, you know, getting all buddy-buddy, talking about a bromance. What sort of message is that to people? Because, you know, here on one hand he's saying we've got to get rid of corruption, and here's a man who's brought the country to its knees. And yet he's I mean, what is the message there? It's confusing. Are we going to sort this out or are we not? Are we going to continue playing around with people who've been so destructive at the cost of the country?
No, there is no playing around. The reality is that for a country to move forward, all South Africans needs to be united. And that is the message the president is sending. With regard to former President Zuma, their processes is undergoing. He's attending the corruption trial. I don't know whether I will go to the state.
Yeah, but when you elevate him on that level, you are saying that it's...
No, it's not been elevated. He's a former president of the ANC. It's in terms of the constitution that the former president sits as an ex-official. He's not being elevated by anyone. But that does not mean that we are stopping any other processes that law enforcement agencies have got the right to do as they are mandated by the constitution. And the president has said it very clear that he's not going to interfere with any work of law enforcement agencies. Even in that regard, they have got their right. They must do their job without fear or favor.
He also wants to tap into other presidents, Thabo Mbeki and others. I mean, how is that going to work? And considering that there's not the best relationship between Zuma and Thabo Mbeki, how do you overcome that in order to progress the conversation?
Yeah, remember, running government does not depend on personalities. It's an institution. It needs to function with or without personalities. So people will have
we've had one big personality crack the government.
Yeah, that's why we are saying it must be an institution. It must be systems that are put in place that enables government to function. And I think that's what the president is trying to do, to tap into the minds that are there of South Africans who have played a role in building this country, former ministers, former presidents, and so forth. We've got good experience. I mean, the past 25 years' experience cannot just be lost. We need to tap into that and see what can be changed moving forward and propel this country into a better South Africa with the contribution of everyone.
You mentioned land. Slight difference, obviously, in the January 8th statement and what we saw coming from the ANC Manifesto. Is this a case of playing the middle ground until the elections are over?
No, there's no slight difference. It's still the same message. They have said that from the conference, we are going to use as one of the tools to enable economic growth, expropriation without compensation. There are other measures that are there that are going to be used. And we have also said we are going to participate in this process of constitutional review, which we have done. So there is no slight difference. We are still moving in that direction. The intention is to dismantle the apartheid spatial planning and move and enable our people across the country, particularly in rural areas, to unlock economic potential and opportunities, but also to help people next to urban areas to be able to reside and work next to places where, and including small businesses accessing places of business. So there's no middle ground. The message is the same. The intention is to bring those that have been previously excluded to participate into the mainstream of the economy.
And obviously you need a unified ANC to drive this home. Where is the unity?
Yes, if you look at the manifesto, it's an outcome of a coherent discussion within the NEC and the ANC, and also with some people in society, because there have been inputs from various members and also people in society. There is a unity in terms of peoples, in terms of where we need to go. There is a meeting of minds within the ANC. But we understand as the ANC that we are not just leading members of the ANC. And that's why we also engage with society as a whole, for society to participate, because we know that Project South Africa will not succeed without the inclusive participation of all South Africans.
Well, I'm sure you all got lots to do before the elections. Ronald Lamola, thank you very much for coming in and talking to us.
Thank you very much.
Still ahead, we analyse the ANC election manifesto a little bit further. See you then.